Hey guys, how are all of you beautiful people? Hope you are doing fine, and yes, this is the next part of Reborn in My Hero Academia with cheats. Where a man is reborn in the world of My Hero Academia and forced to bear the burdens of his predecessors. Thankfully he has a solid quirk and an enchanted gift to see him through. Watch as he nukes the world timeline down the shitter and dominates his Hero Academia. Hope you like the video. Let's start. Alright then. Show me what you can do, Ease. I said, activating remote control on my clothes, as my sleeves contorted around my arms, lines of ethereal blue spreading out across them. Gentle Barry wet his eyes at my quirk, and stomped the ground, sending a ripple my way, before jumping on it like a trampoline, jettisoning himself towards a nearby steel beam. Just as he was about to crash into it head first, he kicked the air, forming a thin membrane, and changed directions, beating the beam with his walking stick, as a ripple spread through it, making it elastic. Slowly and steadily, he gained momentum, turning into a blur. For a normal person, this would be overwhelming, but I was far from a normal person. Hell, I didn't even need to use Laplace Jr. for this. I sidestepped his blow as he zoomed down towards me, jabbing him straight in the ribs as he collapsed on the ground in a coughing fit. Is that how you're going to help in the heist, when you can't even bear a single puny punch? Wasn't it your dream to leave a mark on history? Is this the conviction you have to fulfill your dream? Are you going to let me trample all over you and your dreams? If so, you might as well give up now. I asked. No. I will not let anyone stand between me and my dreams. He cried, as he jumped away, landing on the previously electricized beam and began his speedy little charade again, only this time with feints included. Good. I praised, there's an improvement. Keep going. Try to swing behind me, and hit from down low. I instructed, as a flash of surprise spread over his face. He nodded and started circling around me, throwing feints left and right, always from above, when suddenly he dipped low, and bum-rushed me. I jumped up, avoiding it, and landed smoothly on his back, stomping into the ground. That was great work. Now once more. With gusto. I said, stepping off his back. He looked at me with a fierce gaze, determination oozing off of him in empathy waves. He dashed away and ran straight into a fence. Applying elasticity to it, he propelled himself back up, this time heading to the top of the building, gaining tremendous speed with each jump. Soon the whole structure began to shake with his footsteps, wobbling like a jelly cake, as he whizzed about, caring not for his own life. In that moment of extreme focus, he lived in the present, thinking of nothing but his goal, and in that pursuit, he didn't miss a single step, a single landing or collision, as if on a perfect harmony with himself. It was almost beautiful to watch in a way. Like art of the most dangerous form. Then he came at me, with such force that the air itself crackled, tearing apart at his arrival. The shock could be heard across the whole neighborhood. It was a good thing it was a Sunday afternoon and not a workday, or else we'd be in deep shit. As soon as he was beyond reproach, I jumped away, leaving him to splock his brains onto the cement floor below. A look of despair filled his eyes as he embraced his death with a gladness that he had never felt before, almost surprising himself. Then, just as he was about to crash, he stopped in midair, or rather, he was stopped in midair, held in place by golden yellow rings of light. Then he fell to the ground, face first, like a baby seal flopping onto land. Why? He asked, looking at me with confusion. Why what? Why did I save you? Why did I help you improve? Why didn't I just use this move to defeat you from the start? I taunted. Yes. That. All of it. He said. Because I see great potential in you, hidden behind the veneer of showmanship and procrastination. Because I know you can be so much more than just a petty small-time failed YouTuber. You can be a great hero. So I want to ask you, Danjiro Tobita, do you want to be a hero? I responded, extending him a hand, making the winds flow deliberately with telekinesis to make my hoodie flutter like a cape, as my phone rang with motivational music, setting the perfect scene for the beginning of a redemption arc for him. He hesitated for a moment, before asking, with hopeful eyes. Can I really become a hero, even as I am, at this age? Yes. Yes you can. I said, as he teared up in gratitude, grasping my hand with both of his, mirroring the canon image of Deku and All Might. Please guide me, sensei. He said with such pure sincerity that it nearly shook my heart too. It was an odd sight to behold, but a necessary one in my quest to safely distance myself from the destruction of the HPSC once it was time. And gentle, I had decided would be the linchpin to their demise. Watching from some ways away, Aba found in herself a new sort of respect for the man she cherished, unknowing of the nefarious schemes I had in mind for the two of them. As the fight ended, we returned to the cafe to finish our meal. As I ate, I explained my plans to the two of them, in great detail. First, Aba will get you both invitations to the Expo. I trust you can do that, right Aba? I said. Good. Now when the pre-opening reception takes place, I have it on good authority that a group of villains will attack the city. In the chaos of their takeover, you both will scale the outside of the tower, via the side with emergency exits, and head for the central labs, here. I pointed to the bulge at the top of the tower, in a picture of the island, on my phone. Make sure to get there as soon as the villain's attack starts. And don't get spotted. Once you're in, get remote access to the security systems and disable any cameras in the area to ensure a smooth escape. Destroy any footage of you being there too. No DNA evidence either, so wear gloves and helmets. Full body coverings. Now, open the vaults and unjam the cell towers. Once that's done, shut all doors to the lab and lower all barriers. Make it as hard as possible to get to the lab. Then, give a call to this number. I said, writing down Haruto's cell number on a napkin. Aba stuffed it in her pocket and nodded. Give the person the other end, the exact coordinates of your location, and empty put all the vaults except the one with the quirk amplifier. Leave that one in. I'll use it to make sure no one looks for you guys in the post-op investigation. After getting the items, leave with the person that comes to take the haul. And remember to close all the vaults before heading out, okay? No one can suspect anything until it's too late, understand? I said. Is that all? No heroics, no demonstration. Nothing that announces our presence to the world. Like greatest thieves in the history of humanity. Gentle asked. Gentle, do you want to get caught? This sort of thing will get you a life sentence at the least, and a death sentence in a couple of countries. This is no child's play. We go in quiet and get out the same. No flashy moves or grand speeches, do you get that, Gentle? Do you want to be a hero or not? If you get caught, you will never become a hero. So listen to me, and do what I say. I chastised. Gentle nodded solemnly. Great. Now, while Aba is doing that, you'll go and capture one of the villains, any villain. Just get a mook. Don't go for a leader or bigwig. We need it to look like someone from their own group betrayed them and stole the rest of the stuff that we'll be taking. But make sure no one sees you do it. Aber will help with that, by making sure the cameras are off, but even so, make sure that the villain is alone and isolated, before capturing him. Knock him out and drag him back through the portal that you escape from. After that, hand him over to the person who brought you there and go back home. I'll mail you your share in a week's time. When do we leave for this mission? Aber asked. Tomorrow afternoon. The heist will be the day after. We won't meet during the heist, so don't contact me. If you see me in the tower, the policy is to ignore me. No matter what, we don't get in contact during our stay on the island. I can't be seen anywhere even close, okay? Keeps the investigators guessing far longer. They nodded in agreement, as I got up to leave. I'll go get ready, and I'd say so should you. See you next week, right here. Till then, ciao. I said, and left for home. The next day, after instructing Haruto about the heist, I picked up my bag and got ready to leave, only to see Emiko looking at me like a kicked puppy, with tearful eyes. Ah! That's so cute, it hurts. Damn it. I looked at her and asked. What happened, Emiko? Nothing. She replied. This shit. Women and their cryptic fucking answers, man. In women speak, nothing generally means I'll resent you for this the rest of my fucking life. I thought for a moment, before giving in. Fine. You and the kids can come along. Just don't cry, baby. I said, kissing her forehead gently. Eh. She cheered, running back into the bedroom and returning with 2 duffel bags, pre-packed for the journey. This adorable manipulative bitch. She planned this from the start. I turned to my mother, who just gave a defeated nod, gesturing at Eri. Heh. So she used Eri to get her to agree, huh? Smart. Makes me glad to have gotten with her. At least my kid won't be dumb. Hours later, after we boarded the plane, Eri and Haruto looked around excitedly, glued to the windows, staring amazedly at the clouds with childlike glee and fantasy, before they inevitably fell asleep, tired from the excitement. I caressed Emiko's beautiful sleeping face, leaned on my shoulder, as I wondered if I'd be able to leave them all behind if I ever made it out of this multiversal cluster. I shook my head. That was a thought for another day. Today though, I can delight in a caring and adorable family. After landing, we settled into our hotel room, and finished up with the daily rituals, while I made a round of the island invisibly, taking out blood samples for Haruto. I particularly preferred the Godzilla one. It was a very strong quirk, with the Godzilla-ness. After incorporating them into Haruto, and giving him a bath, we decided to go and tour the amusement park, which, to much of the kids' surprise and Emiko's anger, they had. And you said it wasn't an amusement park. Emiko scolded, glaring daggers into me. Well, you know how it is, right, baby? I said, nervously. HMPH, liar. She pouted. Oh come on, I thought they'd be closed because of the expo. Don't be mad at me. I replied, lying. If you want me to forgive you, you'll have to make it up to me. She said, mischievously, coming closer and whispering in my ear. In bed. The audacity in her to say this out in public. Not that it was surprising. After all, she'd boned with me in the public showers at UA before. I smiled back at her, trying to hold back a grin, and nodded. As we explored the amusement park, we came upon the Deku and Melissa, the main duetragonists of the movie, walking hand in hand. Deku can't possibly have had the courage to do that, so it must have been Melissa's idea. As we walked towards them, Deku recognized me and jerked his hand away from her, blushing furiously. Haru-chan. What a surprise. How did you come here? He asked. The winner of the UA Sports Festival gets an invite every year, for himself and the other top 4 rankers. I just chose to bring Emiko and the kids instead. Eri and Haruto could use a vacation, now that their schools are out for the summer too. Is Eri-chan your cousin? He asked. No. Eri is my daughter. I said. What? He and Melissa exclaimed at once. Deku looked at her embarrassedly and introduced us. This is Melissa Shield, by the way. She's Professor David Shield's daughter. He and All Might are old friends. Yeah, I know. I've read your dossiers on them, Deku. I said, turning to Melissa and extending a handshake. I'm Shikimori Haru. And this is Emiko, my girlfriend, I said, only to be interrupted by Emiko. Soon-to-be wife. She said, giving Melissa a jealous look. I sighed. My wife. I conceded, please forgive her rudeness. She's a bit too loving. Melissa nodded, awkwardly smiling. And this is Haruto. And as you already know, Eri. You've adopted these kids even though you're so young. How kind of you. Melissa praised. Well, technically Emiko has adopted them. I'm still 15, so I can't adopt anyone yet. I explained. We were going around the expo, do you wanna come along? I asked. Yeah, sure. Right, Izuku. Melissa replied. Deku nodded vigorously, like a monkey wind-up doll. Let's go. I heard there's a nice cafe nearby. I said, as Emimo clutched my hand in iron grip. We walked over to the cafe and found our other classmates arguing. Good intentions. Gyro said. I'm a decent working man here, so don't you point fingers at me. Minta replied. Will you guys stop fighting? You are disrespecting the name of UA High. Taida scolded. Hey guys, what going on here? I asked. They turned in fright, expecting security, only to breathe a sigh of relief upon seeing me. Nothing. Eureka answered, shifting in her seat nervously, when she saw Deku and Melissa. Who's that Deku? She asked, shaking in shock. I'm Melissa. Nice to meet you. She responded, ignoring Eureka's shaken demeanor. Meanwhile, Minta was ogling Emiko zealously, as Kaminari dragged him back into the cafe to take other patrons' orders. How did you get here? Gyro asked. The winner of the UA Sports Festival receives an invitation by default. How about you guys? I replied. Momo got 3 invitations and didn't have anyone to come with, so we played rock paper scissors to decide who'd get to go. I looked at Momo, who felt compelled to explain. We get invitations to island events every year because my father owns some stock in the territory. I see. I replied. My family receives them too. Taida added. Good on you. I said, and called out to Kaminari. Hey bro. Can I get 4 hot chocolates? Eri climbed onto my lap and whispered in my ear. And add whipped cream in one of them. I added. So you guys coming to the reception? I asked. What reception? Kaminari said, bringing out the dishes. That was fast. Emiko exclaimed. He, one of the benefits of I-Island is that fast food is actually fast. Kaminari said, rubbing his nose. So what reception are we taking about? Is it a party? Kaminari repeated. Are there going to be hot chicks there? Minter interjected. Do you ever think of anything other than girls, Minter? Tida asked. Nope. A wise man once said, a man need only know 3 O's to lead a happy life, a hammer, Otamar and a pie. Minter responded, with a thumbs up, only to get slapped with Gyro's earphones. Pervert. She muttered, as the rest chuckled at his misery. Don't twist our great poems to suit your desires. Tida added. Suddenly, a boom rang out in the distance followed by cheers. All eyes turned towards a nearby attraction. A timed villain-crushing test. And on the screen stood a familiar face. Shoto Todoroki. 14 seconds. It said. Haruto was staring at it with confusion. Wanna check it out? I asked him. He nodded curiously. I picked him up and walked over, the others following, as Imiko strayed behind, helping Eri wipe the cream mustache from her mouth. The screen replayed Shoto's attempt on it, with him freezing the entire arena with a thick coat of ice. Papa, can I try it? Haruto asked, hopping excitedly at my feet, pointing at the exercise. Sure, go ahead. I said, as he jumped into the arena. We have a new and very adorable challenger. What's your name, little boy? The announcer asked. Haruto. He replied. Okay, Haruto. Do you know how to play this game? She asked. Haruto nodded, and answered. I break all the robots and win. Yes. Yes you do. She said, ruffling his hair. Okay then, whenever you're ready. She said and retreated back. Haruto got into a stance as muscles swelled up around him like an armor. Haruto crouched low on the floor and nodded at me, before bursting forth with a bang, leaving deep imprints into the cement floor. Like a cannonball, he crashed through each robots, crushing them as if they were made of cardboard, blazing the course in a little over 20 seconds. That was a brilliant performance by little Haruto, ranking at 5th place with 20 seconds. The announcer said, as the crowd cheered wildly. Haruto jumped back out and right into my arms. Papa. How did I do? He asked. You did very good, Haruto. I said, patting his head as he giggled proudly. Ooh. That's exciting. Now even I wanna try it. Kaminari said. We have work to do, let's get back already. I don't want to face the boss's wrath again. Minter advised, dragging Kaminari away. See you guys later. Kaminari said, waving at us, while Tida jumped in, trying to challenge the course. As the announcer gave him the signal, he immediately started with Recipro Burst at full power, not wanting to score lower than a literal child, and ended up limping out of the arena with a rank of 4th at 18 seconds. Deku, why don't you try it? I suggested. Should I? He wondered. Definitely. I said, slapping his back so hard he fell over the rails, landing somehow on his feet on the podium beside the announcer. He looked around frantically in confusion for a moment as the hamster wheel in his brain rationalized what just happened to him. Haru-chan. He said ruefully, raising a fist at me, as I and Imiko chuckled. It was cute and hilarious. Deku turned to look at the announcer and nodded as she began the countdown. Meanwhile, Deku raised his power with full cowling at 25%, and as soon as the announcer gave the signal, he almost seemed to vanish from his position, robots being blown away with air bullets and lightning-fast kicks, earning a time of 12 seconds, achieving the first place much to Shoto's chagrin. As he walked out, this time I jumped in. The robots retreated underground as new ones emerged to take their place. "Whenever you're ready," the announcer said. "Sure," I replied, immediately projecting eyes all across the arena, and using remote control, within seconds twisting their necks off, ending the course at a respectable 4 seconds. Booyah! We have a new all-time record. 4 seconds. "What's your name, contestant?" she asked. "Haru. Shikimori Haru," I said, leaping back out as coolly as I could, meeting Imiko with a kiss, WTH her pulling me into it, at the embarrassment of our acquaintances. "Imiko," I protested. "Hey." She giggled cheerfully. After a tiresome day of shopping for formal attire with Imiko and the kids, where she ended up choosing a simple navy blue conservative dress, picking out a lily-patterned one for Eri and a simple suit for Haruto, we dressed up for the reception, and made our way to the tower. On the other end of the compound, I could sense Aber and Gentle, hiding by an office building, waiting for their chance. In the hall, the others gathered up, dressed for the occasion, so much so that even Minta looked halfway decent. But the highlight of the room was undoubtedly Melissa. In an elegant dress, looking like a bona fide princess, straight out of a fairy tale, she stole the show. I almost skipped a beat at her beauty. Damn. Anime girls do be on a whole different level, huh? Or maybe I just have a thing for blondes. Maybe both. "You look beautiful," I said, as Melissa entered the room, earning a painful pitch from Imiko. "Ouch!" I cried as Deku chuckled. Minta was almost drooling and I could almost see his pants strain with his 2-incher. On the other end of the room, a door opened as Momo entered, followed by Gyro, hiding in her shadow, a slight blush lining her face. "Cute. I'm not used to wearing girly clothes," Gyro said, as she walked into view. "Don't worry, you look very cute in that dress," I replied, stopping Imiko's pinch this time before she hit the mark. She gave me a murderous look, before placating somehow as a realization dawned on her. From her emotions, I could tell her inner yandere was flaring up with murderous rage. I could almost hear her scream my Haru. In her mind. Thus, her vain efforts at jealously guarding me from, in her thoughts, harlots who wouldn't appreciate me. That's so cute. The astounding amount of loyalty she had surprised me. Damn it, Imiko. How can you be such a perfect wife? Like all the good yandere bits but nearly none of the bad ones. Yeah, like mega cute. Kaminari added. Really? Gyro asked. See? I told you, you look fine. Momo assured. Yeah. You worry too much. Yurika said. From inside a faint voice could be heard. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to iExpo's pre-opening reception party. Let's have the number 1 hero, All Might, who is visiting us today, say a few words in a toast. Everyone, please give him a round of applause. An applause rang out as Melissa turned in its direction. Shall we go in? The toast is about to begin, Melissa suggested. How about we wait and watch the toast from the gallery? We'll have a better view that way. Then we can head down after, I replied, giving Deku a look. Yeah, toasts are hugely boring anyways. Deku supported my argument. If you say so, Momo said. Sure, Melissa replied. I'm whenever the chicks are, Monita said. Only to be glared down by everyone, as we climbed the stairs to the side, while Deku lagged behind by a step with me. "What's the problem?" he whispered. "I saw a light flash red outside just now. Maybe it's just my imagination, but isn't that a sign of an emergency? I figured it's best we wait a bit away until I can be sure it's nothing important," I answered. Deku nodded in agreement. "I understand," he said, regaining pace and catching up with the rest. As we reached the gallery, All Might came up on the stage, and raised a glass to the audience. "Thank you all for inviting me. I'm All Might. I don't like formal talk so," he said, when suddenly, the windows to the reception hall locked up, as alarms started blaring. The screen behind him projected the word emergency, on it in big red letters. "This is an announcement by the I-Island security system. We have recorded a report from the system that an explosive device was placed in the I-Expo area. I-Island will now be in high alert mode. Residents and tourists should return to their lodgings. Those who have come a long way should head to the nearest evacuation shelter. Anyone outside 10 minutes from now may be arrested without warning. Please refrain from going outdoors. In addition, most if the main buildings will be sealed off by the security system." I repeat, the broadcast abruptly shut off in the hall, as the doors opened, and armed men in masks walked in, surrounding the attendees. From the main entrance, a red-haired man in a plaid plate mask entered. "It's just as you heard. We've taken control of the security system. Don't think you're going to put up a fight. If you do, the security machines will turn their fangs at all the good people on this island," he said. The screens flipped to show security drones surrounding people in the subway and shopping mall. "That's right," he continued, "all the people on this island are hostages. Of course, you all are, as well." The security features activated in the hall, restraining bonds made of nanotech and hard light constructs trapping everyone. I immediately projected an eye into the hall, lined at the fresco atop the stage, and dragged the rest of them back from the gallery, hiding out of sight. "Shush," I said, as I crawled closer, while Gyro plugged her earplugs into the floor listening in. The villain climbed onto the stage, beside a struggling All Might, about to break his bonds, and announced, "Don't move. If you so much as tail one step off of here, I'll kill everyone in the hall," he said, pointing a gun at the guests. All Might stopped struggling instantly as the villain kicked him to the floor. "Good boy," he said. "You're all going to learn from All Might and listen to what I say quietly, right?" The man turned to a guest and looked at him closely. "You're a researcher here, right?" he asked. "Why, yes," the man answered. "Take him," the villain ordered, as one of the gunmen walked over, dragging the researcher out. "Wait. He's my assistant." "What do you plan to do with him?" Professor David asked. "If it isn't David Shield, you come too," he said. "And what if I refuse?" David asked. "Then somewhere on this island, someone's scream will ring out," the villain threatened. "Fine, I will go," David agreed, as another gunman shoved his rifle into the professor's back, sending him stumbling, as they dragged them away. Behind me, Tyder whispered, "My phone has no signal. It looks like all reports are being blocked." I nodded and crawled back to the group. "Melissa, do you know a way out of here and to the security system's control room?" I asked. "Yes," she said, and looked at the door, only to find it locked. "We can take the emergency stairs," she said. "Hold on. We are just students. We don't have hero licenses. Shouldn't we leave it to the heroes? Momo suggested. You say that as if we could fight against villains anyway. We are not heroes yet. Kaminari said. We should just escape and inform the heroes outside so that they can help. Tida replied. I don't think we can escape from here. The security in the tower is the same as Tartarus. Melissa explained. We should just wait here for help to arrive. Eureka added finally. I don't know about you, but we're the heroes of the future, and I certainly won't stand around and watch innocent people be hurt. I'm going to find a way stop the villains, by hook or by crook. And while I might not be an unstoppable force like All Might, I am an immovable object. So long as I am here, no one can harm you guys. I said, as Melissa's eyes lit up in that childish admiration of heroism that was all but lost on me. Heroes of the future, huh? Shoto said, clutching his hand. Haru is right. We have to do something. I can't just sit here and wait for someone else to do something about it. That's what the other heroes do. I want to be better than that. Gyro said, reminding the UA students of my rant about fake heroes. Yeah. You're right. We can't just sit about doing nothing. Slowly and steadily, the rest of them agreed and prepared to join my expedition. As they concentrated upon the emergency exit, I stopped them. Wait. Let me inform All Might about it. I said. How will you do that? Won't the gunmen notice? Melissa asked. Not with me, they won't. I projected an eye into the hall as soon as the villain entered. I'll tell him with Morse code. I explained, projecting another eye on the stage, right in front of All Might's face. Blinking in Morse code, I informed him of the plan and requested that he wait to act until we have control of the security system. Once he nodded in agreement, I gave the signal to Melissa and the others as we opened the emergency exit and quietly left the gallery, heading for the control room. Outside the tower, Gentle was scaling the building with Aber on his back. Now it was just a race against time. Who'd get to the lab first, the villains or my crew? There was never a question about it, of course. My crew would reach the labs first. Not because they were just that much better at it, but rather because I was going to incapacitate all elevators up the tower. As we ran past the staff bathrooms, I lagged behind by a step or two. I took out my enchanted key and thrust it forward with telekinesis, even as I caught up to the rest of the group. Once it was in the toilet, I used the key to disassemble the exhaust, using the vents to exit the building, creating man-sized holes with the key and roughing the up with telekinesis, to make it look like a battering ram had blown through it. As the key exited the smaller vents into the main vent, I rocketed it up the height of the tower, disassembling all fans along the way, with the same treatment as before, to make it look like the villains had used these as an alternate entrance, trailing back all the way to the bathrooms I first threw the key into. This would act as a red herring for the holes in the lab I was going to make. As Gentle and Aber reached the height of the labs, my key opened up a hole in the wall to let them through. Once they were in, I used telekinesis to reassemble the wall from its puzzle-like disassembled pieces this one instance, making it look like it had never broken at all, before sealing it in place with the state-locking enchantment of the key. The key flew back down the holes I made and returned to my pocket as planned, and they both got to work. First things first, Aber unjammed the telecom signals, allowing phone calls to resume again. Next, she sealed all exits to the lab and lowered all barriers, preventing entry into the entire floor itself, but not before allowing Gentle out and into the floor below and shutting off all cameras. Now, with the lab taken care of, I focused on the capture of the token traitor among the villains. On the 130th floor, at the edge of the perimeter, I found them. The Purple Ogre and the Sonic Palms villains. Using trance, I made them move to the lab, intercepting Gentle, before falling unconscious. Token traitor captured. Now, the heist can just be blamed on these two, while we get away scot-free. Meanwhile, we reached the 80th floor Botany Garden, and took the one non-sabotaged elevator that I had left. Floor by floor, the elevator rose, when I brought back my psychic sense over it, only to find it occupied. Fuck. Of course, the professor and the red-haired villain were using it to come up to the labs. Instantly, I signaled the others to take cover and hide. Why? The elevator is almost here. Kaminari whined. We don't know if it's occupied or not. Let's hide first and check before we plunge headfirst into a villain attack. I warned. The others nodded, and we split into two groups, taking cover behind the thicket. The elevator dinged and opened up, revealing Professor David, Assistant Professor Sam and the villain, looking out, confused at the sudden stop. Finding nothing of interest, they pressed the button to close the elevator and proceeded back up, as we all breathed a sigh of relief. Wasn't Professor David looking a bit too relaxed with the villain? I wondered out loud, planting seeds of doubt in Melissa's head before the grand reveal destroys her future father. What do you mean, Haru-chan? Deku asked. I mean, if I was abducted by a villain, I wouldn't be casually peeking out around and leaning about with my hands in my pockets. That's more like someone who knows that there never was any trouble at all. I replied. What are you insinuating, Haru? Are you accusing my father of working with the villains? Melissa snapped. Hey! Shut it! He didn't accuse anyone of anything. Imiko came to my defense. Before this catfight could progress any further, I interfered. Let's just hope I'm wrong and deal with this later, shall we? I said, pointing at the stairs. Fine. But I'm not letting this go. Melissa replied. We proceeded up the stairs, Minter lagging behind when at the 110th floor he collapsed in a heap out of exhaustion. Everyone. Hold on. I called out, walking over to him and checked his pulse. Deku, blast open a hole in that wall over there. I said. Why? Taida asked. In truth, the reason I had stopped them was because according to Laplace Jr., there was still time left before David would confess to staging the attack in earshot of Melissa, and so I had to stall for time until the right moment to enter the scene appeared. But I wasn't going to tell them that, obviously. So, I used another legitimate reason to stall us. We can't risk the lives of my kids and Minter in this fight. I'll have Haruto take them back to the hotel. I replied, gesturing at Haruto, who came running over with Eri on his back. He had been carrying her since floor 10 when she got tired. Haruto, transform completely like we practiced, and take Eri-chan and Mama back. Then do what I told you to do, okay? I said, handing him the phone. Haruto nodded. Yes, Papa. He put down Eri and stuffed the phone into his pant pocket, before removing his coat and shirt. He crouched down and grunting with great effort as wings sprouted from his back, and his wheatish skin turned char-black and stony. His muscles buffed up like a flesh armor around him and tentacles sprouted from his chest. He took a few heavy breaths, panting from the effort, before he wrapped the tentacles around Eri, Imiko, and with a separate tentacle he grabbed Minter, keeping him away from the two, to ensure that no funny business takes place. Bye Papa. Eri said, sleepily. I pat her head gently, as she leaned back onto Haruto's shoulder. Don't you dare get hurt. Emiko said, kissing me. Isn't that a bit counterintuitive, coming from you? I joked. In bed, yes. But that doesn't mean I want to see you get hurt all the time. I do love you too, you know. She said, putting a hand on my cheek, looking me in the eyes. I'll try. I said, turning my gaze away from the pure love she was emanating in waves. Why are you so damn wholesome all of a sudden? My heart can't handle this much love. Haruto poked at me for approval as I nodded in agreement, calming my roiling emotions. He walked back into the hallway until his back was nearly to the wall, before he got a running start, jumping out of the hole in the wall, gliding away. I thought his quirk was ultra regeneration. Deku asked. It's a side effect of his quirk. His quirk is actually gargoyle. I lied. I see. That was rather unexpected though. Are you sure they'll be fine? Taida asked. Yeah. Haruto's pretty decent at using his quirk and we've practiced an emergency drill before. They'll be just fine. I assured him. Back in the hallway, I turned to Shoto. Shoto, create an ice wall at our back. I'm sure the villains heard that wall break. They'll catch up soon enough if we don't stop them here. I explained. He nodded and froze the entire hallway behind us into a glacial complex. There. He said, that should do, right? Yup. Let's move on. We progressed up the stairs, until we reached the lab, and with slow deliberate steps, I lead them to it. The confession. Aber and Gentle had already been teleported out with Haruto's portals and were likely back in Japan by now. So I was pretty sure of myself as we stepped into the corridor leading to the top floor lab. In the lab, we could see Professor David and Sam working frantically on the computers. Then a beep rang out, as Sam ran over to the vaults. You did it, Professor. It's here. Everything's here. Sam said, excitedly. Yes. I've gotten it back. David replied. This device and research data are the only things that I wouldn't give to anyone. And everything else is going according to plan, isn't it? It looks like the villains are doing well too. Sam said. Thank you. It's all because you arranged all this for me, Sam. David said, unaware of us listening in. I looked at Melissa, who seemed shaken by this revelation. I placed a hand on her shoulder, reassuringly. It's okay. Go on. I said. She looked at me, through tears, and nodded gratefully, before stepping forward. Papa, what do you mean by arranged? She said, her voice shaking. Melissa. David stuttered. Miss. What are you doing here? Sam asked. What do you mean arranged? Melissa repeated, angrier this time. Papa, don't tell me you're really behind this. She asked. In order to get that device. Behind her, Taida whispered. How can this be? Didn't I tell you, Taida? The world is a dark place. All sorts of things can happen here. I replied. I'm sure he has a good reason for doing this. Momo insisted. A reason that justifies holding an entire city hostage. I asked. Momo looked down, conflicted at the assertion. Silently, I asked Deku to keep watch for any intruders. Is that true, Papa? Melissa asked. It is. David replied. What, why? Melissa muttered. The professor is only trying to get back what was stolen from him. Sam interjected. This groundbreaking invention that mechanically amplifies quirks. It amplifies quirks? Deku asked, intrigued. David took a step closer to the box. Do you know that All Might's quirk is weakening? If it goes on like this, soon we won't have a symbol of peace in the world anymore. And then, all light will lost. I can't allow that to happen. So to give him back his light, no, make him even stronger than he was in his prime, I had to do this. All for this device. David cried, pointing at it. It is still in the testing phase, but with this device, unlike with drugs, quirks can be amplified without affecting the body. David explained. However, the device and research data were confiscated by the sponsors. The research itself was also frozen. Sam added. If this was made known to the world, then the structure of superhuman society would change drastically. Fearing that, the governments from all around the world put pressure on him. That's why the professor. You mean the weak would finally have the strength to stand against their bullies? That it would affect the huge power disparity in society and reduce the sponsors' chokehold on quirk soldiers? That finally the governments wouldn't be able to run Black Ops assassin squads to suppress dissent willy-nilly? I said, interrupting them. Yes. You understand, don't you? We're doing this for the benefit of humanity. Sam replied. You must understand how important this technology is. David added. Professor. I said, what do you think the governments did when they confiscated this data? Do you seriously believe that they just let it sit around gathering dust in a vault somewhere? Are you that naive? No. That's why it's even more important that we do this. We can make it better. Use this. Sam explained, only to be cut off again. No. You don't get it, do you? I responded, rubbing my temples. The governments probably already have this tech applied to their militaries. You didn't stop jack shit. Instead, you gave them a weapon greater than the nuclear bomb. Let's say you steal this now, and start research on a better, stronger version. How long will that take? Will you be able to overcome the head start they have on you? With what money? If you were already so reliant on sponsors that they could make you give up the research without so much as a peep, what do you think you can achieve with just this one set of data? I chastised. We'll do something about it. David answered. And where exactly will you do this something? When the attack ends, the first thing the governments will do is launch an investigation and check for stolen items. When they find out about the missing amplifier, do you think they'll just let it go? Hell no. They'll lock down the island indefinitely. Then there'll be no research or that's something you'll do about it. And they aren't as dumb as you make them out to be. They'll have their hounds on you within days. And that's just considering the fact that everything goes smoothly. Did you think about what would happen if the villains just killed you and stole the invention? They could now sell it on the black market and bada bing bada boom, every Tom, Dick and Harry with a radical ideology, or religious extremist views will have a mini nuke in their hands. Imagine this device in the hands of someone with a power like weather manipulation. They could create mass drought across entire nations, or flood cities at a whim. Do you know how many countless lives will be lost in that? Millions dead, corpses lining the streets, rivers turning red with blood. And it will all be on your hands. You'll never wash that blood away. I scolded. Didn't think of that when I was inventing it. David staggered, leaning on the computer. Of course you didn't. No inventor thinks about the negative consequences their invention will have. No one likes to think that their work will harm others. But it's precisely because of that WMDs are created. I replied. Surely it can't be that bad, right? Melissa said. Yeah. We can just stop this now and it'll all be fine. Tyder suggested. I sighed with great effect. Tyder, Melissa, what do you think the governments do in response to terrorism incidents this wide, when tens of thousands of people are affected? Look at history, and think, what track record does the government have in response to widespread assaults on public safety? I asked. They turn authoritarian. Deku replied, shocked. That. Exactly that. And this incident will just give them free rein to implement harsher punishments for minor offenses, invasions of privacy and unrestricted surveillance, increasing the power of the police, and worst of all, they just might even use this as an excuse to outfit their soldiers with this device immediately. All in the interest of public safety because you geniuses didn't have the slightest fucking bit of forethought before jumping ass first into this wood chipper of a plan. I explained. At this point Sam snapped. And what do you think we should have done, huh? If you're so smart, why don't you tell me how we should have done this? Sam, don't. David protested. No. It's fine. I'll answer him. It's simple really. You should have embezzled them. I answered. What? They all exclaimed. How? David asked. Professor, tell me, do these sponsors require you to log every failure and wasted resource into a detailed report? Or are you granted some leeway in the use of materials? I asked. Yes. Why didn't I think of it? David muttered. What do you mean, Papa? Melissa asked. What he means is that they could have shunted away some resources and written them off as lost materials or failed tests and spirited them away into a new version of this device. That way, they'd not only have a better device, but also the funds for more research. All without needing to use villains or attract any attention. I mean, who'd have questioned a few failed tests and fudged records from the famous and principled Professor David, right? I said. I was an idiot. David said, slapping his head in anger, again and again. That you are, Professor. A voice came from the corridor, as the red-haired villain walked in, slowly clapping. Damn it, Deku. Didn't I tell you to keep watch by the corridor? I cried. Sorry, Haru-chan. Don't worry, I'll get him now. Deku answered. No you won't. The villain said, as metal bands wrapped around my eyes and restricted everyone else before they could react, pinning us all to the wall. Of course, I knew he was coming, but if I stopped him back there, my plan to get David and Melissa to see me as the future symbol of peace wouldn't work, now would it? Great plans require great sacrifices, after all. And a little pain was well worth it, to gain the future support of Island's best and brightest. The villain walked forward, until he reached the professor and raised his gun to his forehead. And now, you'll die for your mistakes. The villain said, as a clicking sound echoed in the hall. The cocking of the gun's hammer. Goodbye, Professor David. Nuu! Melissa screamed. Wait! I shouted with such force that the villain flinched visibly at my vocation. What? He said, pointing the gun at me. Don't kill him. He's more valuable to you alive. You can use him to make more of these augmenters. Take him with you, I pleaded. The villain then, contrary to my expectations, began to laugh as if I had made an ironic joke like no other. What's so funny? I asked. He looked back at me curiously. You know, that's exactly what I was going to do originally. But then I heard your little infomercial about the government's hunting everyone involved, and now, I don't think I'm going to take this human-sized target with me. Better to cut all loose ends before they get stuck on a door handle and send you tumbling, eh? He replied. Turning back to the professor, he leveled the gun at him again. It was then that I started the act. Struggling to turn in the metal binds, I leaned closer to walls, before suddenly and loudly smashing my head and the metal band on my eyes against the wall. Yairaiog! I cried out, drawing blood, until with a sickening crunch, my eye bones fractured, along with the metal blindfold, leaving me a millimeter-thin margin of view. Using trance to overcome the pain of a bone picking into my eye in the side, I projected an eye onto the ceiling, then reflecting eyes off of every surface, sealing all of the villain's movements with over a dozen rings of gold. Then with remote control, I ripped the binds off of me, stumbling towards the villain, only to fall in a daze from the concussion. Just as I was about to hit the floor, I used immobilization eye to stop myself, and stood back up on unsteady feet, cladding the flesh in remote control. I lunged at the villain, knocking him out, just as Deku broke from his binds and rushed over to support me. Don't fuck this one up now, Deku, I said, poking his forehead attack eye style, before fainting. As my sight faded, I could distinctly spot Melissa running towards me. Plan success. Before fainting, I stopped the auto regen with trance to make the injury look authentic, and slept like a baby. A very injured, concussed and likely brain-dead baby. The next I awoke, I was in the hospital with Imiko bent over my chest, fast asleep. On her cheeks, I could spot the inklings of dried tears. And deep in my heart I felt a pinch. The pangs of pain, born of empathy. Was this love? Or just attachment? I didn't know, and I didn't use Laplace Jr. to find out. I reached for her face, first and foremost, tracing the tear-laden path. Should I not have played it to this effect? Should I have gone about UT another way? Maybe I should have just revealed my POW YAG. A piercing pain spread through my head as the antimimetic, anti-mind control program, which I had affectionately dubbed Gamer's Mind, activated, throttling my emotions, bring me back to a more manageable level, with force. Fuck. I really gotta lower the pain factor on this one. My cries though, woke Imiko up. You fucking idiot. She shouted at me, her voice hoarse from crying, pummeling my chest in petty blows. I grabbed her hands and pulled her closer, seemingly in a kiss. She looked deep into my eyes as she blushed tearfully and closed her eyes, expecting a passionate kiss. At the last moment, I instead pulled her into a hug, rubbing her back comfortingly. TCH. She intoned. Come on, this is nice too. Besides, with the fractures, I am in no shape to be kissing anyone right now, I said, chuckling lightly. Baker. Imiko muttered, smiling with quivering lips, like a maiden love-struck. So cute that I almost took her to bed on the spot. Apparently, she had the same idea, as she slowly climbed onto the bed, lifting her shirt, unhooking her bra. As I pulled off her baggy shirt, and threw it aside, she began to pull up the hospital gown, when all of a sudden, with a wide swing, the door opened, as Deku, Taida, Momo and Melissa rushed in. Ahem. Deku cleared his throat, watching me as Imiko froze like a deer in the headlights. Still so cute. Turning around, she saw the intruders and almost leapt off of me, flushing. Suddenly, a nurse and doctor rushed in. There was a sudden increase in heart rate. Is everything okay here? Oh. Oh. The nurse exclaimed, seeing a topless Imiko, half-dressed again. The doctor just sighed and warned. Don't. Just while you're here, keep it in your pants, or down as it stands. Let's avoid any more of these unpleasant situations, shall we? Me and Imiko nodded furiously as we got into proper posture, back straight as a rod. And well, so was my rod, if you know what I mean. I pulled the sheets over it coolly, and used rise to settle it back down. We can come back in a bit if you want. Deku asked. Nah. It's fine. If it weren't for the doctors here, I'd have invited you join, again. I said, reminding him of my first time, as he blushed a rainbow. Haru-chan. Deku protested. Hey. I chuckled mischievously at his embarrassment, as the others sighed. After a short greeting, the visitors left me alone with Imiko. As an uncomfortable silence dwelled upon the room, I broke it with an inquisition. Where are the kids? How are they doing? They're back at home. Haruto ported them out. Imiko said. Now how about you answer a question of mine? Who were those two? She asked. I gestured at the surroundings, as she got the hint. She grabbed my hand as I answered telepathically. So. Those two were people I was hired to help do a certain job elsewhere in the city. A small heist, so to speak. And since I owed someone a favor, I had to help them get in and out. Don't worry about it. It's nothing of consequence. I said, reinforcing the theory of me owing an underworld dealer a favor for healing Tida's brother. This would make Imiko another witness in the case if I ever got called out on it. Now back to what we were doing earlier, until we were rudely interrupted. I said, manipulating the ECG to keep my heart rate steady. I pulled Imiko closer. Ooh. Aren't you a naughty patient? Imiko said. Oh, is that what we're doing, Mrs. Nurse? I asked mischievously. Dang it. Play along, will you? Imiko replied with a smack to my hands. Didn't you just call me a naughty patient? Do naughty patients play along? I teased. That's the spirit. Imiko cheered, pulling my hands down her skirt when all of a sudden, I felt a familiar presence in the corridor. Imiko, get off. I said, getting serious, pointing at the door. She immediately got off and sat in her seat. The door opened to reveal the usual suspect. Fucking Deku. Cock-blocking me twice in a day. Almost like he has a vendetta against me. What's up, Deku? I asked, calming my anger, as a nerve twitched on my forehead. Haru-chan, can we talk? He asked. Yeah, sure. Not like you're gonna let me do anything else, you bastard. I muttered. What? He cried. What? I replied. Nothing. I just hoped we could talk, alone. He said, looking at Imiko. Oh, don't worry about her. She's a good listener. I said, holding her hands. It's not her ears I'm worried about. Deku said, looking at her hands. Did something happen? I asked Imiko telepathically. Not particularly. Imiko replied. Did you threaten to do something to him or what? I pushed. Imiko thought for a bit, before replying. I did say some stuff about gutting guys responsible for putting you in the hospital, but why would Deku? Oh. This rat bastard. Imiko cried, shaking in rage. Imiko, baby. Calm the calamity that is your Mamoris. Deep breaths. Come on, do it with me, deep breaths. I said, to no avail, as she reached for her handy-dandy box cutter in her skirt pocket. Choose your next words wisely, Deku. Imiko said, with a creepily chilling voice. A shiver ran down Deku's spine, as he turned around to leave. No. It's okay, I can come back later. I'll leave you to your devices for now. I'm sure you're tired. You should get some sleep. It's good for you. Sit your ass down right now. Imiko ordered. Yes, m. He said, almost jumping onto the couch by the bed. Now, speak. She said. What? He asked. Imiko, baby, you don't need to. You shut up. Deku, is this your fault? She asked, with murderous rage, leveling the box cutter against his neck. Deku looked like his spirit was about to leave his body as he answered. Why yes. And I'm sorry. I should have kept watch. If I didn't miss the villain coming over, this would have never happened. And just, before you kill me, I just want to say, once more, that I regret it more than anything. He cried, tears pooling in his eyes. After all Haru-chan did for me, training me, helping me, supporting me. Even getting me a quirk. And I couldn't even protect him. With all the power in the world at my disposal, I still failed. I don't know Haru-chan, if I can't even protect my best friend, right in front of my eyes, am I even worthy of being a hero? He sobbed. Imiko's expression softened, as she gave Deku a hug. She realized that one blaming themselves the most in this case was Deku. Outside the door, I could sense Melissa, Taida and Momo, leaning against the wall, eavesdropping on Deku's sobs. Hush. Deku. It's okay. Imiko said, holding back her anger with great restraint. It made me so proud. I won't say it's not your fault, Deku. But, that doesn't mean you aren't worthy of being a hero, okay? She said, rubbing his back like a mother to her child. As long as you learn from this, and improve, I'm sure you'll become a great hero, okay? Deku nodded, still choking on sobs. That was when I realized it. Wasn't this the low point in his self-esteem that I was looking to create? Wasn't this the chance I had to get OFA from him? Fuck. Why did I let this go to waste? No. It's not too late still. Maybe if I heap blame onto him now, maybe a little wordplay, and he'll shatter into a million pieces. Yes. That's what I have to do. I looked at Deku and Imiko, trying to find an opportune moment to butt in. And then I saw it, the sniffling Deku, and Imiko, patting his back kindly, gently. The two people who I called friends. Something in me, deep in my heart, called to me. I was going to hurt him, my best friend, basically a dog in human form, with his puppy-like affection and devotion for me. I had spent years reforging him into a new man, a better man. All that hard work and effort. This was a major asset, that I had poured my blood and sweat into. And now I was going to undo it. No. That would be too illogical. Was it really right for me to break him, just for a bigger battery? Couldn't I find another way? Surely there are other stockpiling quirks that can be transferred with blood. I'd hate to lose my investments due to personal stupidity. Even more so, after I gave in to my emotions and rescued Eri before the time was right. I don't need to lose such a useful and loyal pawn for this. Especially not now, before I can handle it. I just have to wait until I get my hands on AFO and its assorted quirk duplication side effect. And once I get AFO, I can just combine it with Monoma's quirk to get a perfect duplicate copy of OFA. That way, I get to keep Deku in my court and get OFA all at once. Like two birds with one stone. Yes. That's it. I'll leave Deku sane, and once I get AFO and duplicate OFA, I'll stick Deku with the duplicate and take the real one for myself. That's what I'll do. A way to not hinder my plans, but still get OFA safely, without arousing suspicion. I nodded, satisfied at my logic, as Imiko looked at me, concerned at my unexpected animation. Due to my injuries, I missed out on the expo proper. And so, at its end, I was left a little disappointed as I prepared to return home. Seeing things with psychic sense just isn't the same as experiencing them firsthand. It's a bit better even, but that human feeling of curiosity and excitement is something to be cherished, especially given the decay of such features with age. Man, that made me feel like an old man. I shook my head. Can't be getting all Socratic on my arse hours before an important flight out of here. As we made our way to the airport, the Shields met us in the lobby to see us off. Hello. David greeted. Hey. Melissa said. Professor. And Melissa. What brings you here? I asked, knowing full well their exact reasons for coming here, having read their minds beforehand. Just wanted to see you off. And here. David said, handing me a box of almond and hazelnut chocolates. A token of our gratitude. I heard you like chocolates. He said. Yeah. Just a thanks. Melissa said, blushing a little, as David looked at her smiling. If only he didn't have a girlfriend, I'd have asked him to marry Melissa. Can't let such a good suitor get away. David thought, a bit too loudly. I could feel it off his emotions. Well, thanks for the chocolates. How did you know about it? I asked. Deku told me. Melissa replied. Makes sense. Goodbye then. I said, making to leave as David called out. Hold on a minute. What? I asked. I have something to talk to you about. He said. Sure. But can we do it fast? Imiko's waiting for me inside. I answered. Thanks. It's just, I was a bit lost about what to do about the, you know. He said. The amplifier. I hinted. Yes. He replied. What about it? How do you think I should proceed with the amplifier situation? Now that the sponsors are aware of the vulnerabilities in the system, and the investigation has cleared me, and I'm still not sure how you managed to convince them of that, I wanted to correct my mistake, an atonement of sorts. What do you think I should do? Look, I am not one to tell others how to do their jobs unless they fuck up phenomenally, which you have of course, and even then, I'm no scientist or anything. But if I was the one dealing with a technology of such power, the first thing I'd do was install a dead man switch and a remote shut-off backdoor to its program, to make sure that no one could ever misuse this tech to cause harm. Then, I'd improve on it, with a smaller, more compact, battery-operated model to facilitate the earlier shut-off program as well as control the scale of potential disaster caused by it. Besides that, I'd probably play the stock algorithm to short the bogus trades of the sponsors and use that as funding for further independent research. As for atonement, you could begin by using underground hackers to delete the data about this tech from all possible government sites in a simultaneous worldwide virus strike. And to that end, here, I said, pulling out my notepad, handing him Abe's number. He hesitated to take the chit from me, not wanting to jump back into illegal dealings again this soon after his catastrophic failure in the previous attempt. Ultimately though, his guilt won out and he took it. Call them. They can help. Unless you know some underground hackers yourself. I teased. No. You're right. Thanks. I'll see that it's done. It's the least I can do. David muttered, defeatedly. Hey. Prof. Don't worry. They're good people. And as for your symbol of peace, well, I can do it. No, I am going to do it. Just you watch. I may not be an unstoppable force like All Might, but the symbol of peace doesn't have to fit a mold, does he? I'm the immovable object that even All Might can't contest. No evil will pass by me. Prof, consider me be your new light. Let me show you how to make the impossible possible. I said, flashing a confident smile. He gave me a faint smile as he raised his head, right in time to see a beam of light reflect behind me like a halo, painting me in a warm bath of sunshine. Meanwhile, nearby a trance-manipulated stranger began softly playing inspirational music on his phone. Far enough to not be spotted, but close enough to subtly affect their perception. Not naturally, of course. But nothing a little creative use of telekinesis can't solve. And the good old sunshine halo trick never fails to deliver. I watched as a familiar shine returned to his eyes and he breathed out a glad sigh. Melissa almost looked starstruck, and with that blush, maybe even love-struck. Man, people are so easy to fool. I wonder why more people don't use these tricks. Regardless, with the plans in motion and my hooks sunken deep in their skulls, I waved them farewell, and joined the rest of the class in the plane, leaving the island, having fulfilled both of my missions in coming here. Back at the mountain, I surveyed the lush verdant landscape stretching beneath my feet, a cool highland breeze caressing my face, blowing sand into Deku's eye. Did you know, Deku, that I always wanted to be a forest ranger? I asked. I mean, you did mention it in your sports festival rant, so. Deku replied, staring off into the distance, dangling his feet off the cliff edge, swinging them in imitation of me. Other kids, they wanted to be like the heroes of legend, All Might, Endeavor and their sort. Others yet wanted to be scientists or big business owners, living in mansions, surrounded by hot babes. I never really got the point of it, any of it really. I drudged on. But you understand things so much better than me, people too. Don't you feel you'd do better in a job where you can use your talents the most? Deku pointed out. I suppose that holds true for most people. But then again, most people tend not wander off their set course in life, fearing the unknown. They never engage that spark of exploration in them. No curiosity at all. And then there's that phrase I read in an old Greek book. Women are creatures that can either be loved or understood, not both. I think he meant that when you understand them, you see their true ugliness, a form of evil even. And then you can never look at them the same. Or love them for that matter. In some ways, I think that applies to more than just women. I said. Yes, yes. You've talked about this before. People are evil, the only reason to tolerate them is because markets and chocolate and yada yada. What's the point of it, Haru-chan? Deku asked. What's the point of any of it, Deku? I replied with a sigh. Geez, you're really bored out of your mind, aren't you? That's the only time you repeat these inane squabbles with me. Deku commented, smiling. Well, I'm more tired than bored. Like sort stretched flat, like a puff pastry. Lately, the food, I can't seem to taste it. Like the colors are muted in a way, if you know what I mean. That lunch we just had, it was delicious no doubt, but that happy satisfied feeling you get after, it was, for me at least, a bit dull, duller than usual. I don't know, don't feel like anything's worth it. Like I should just ramrod through this stuff. And I know I could. I very well could. If I put my mind to it. Say, Deku, what do you think? Suddenly, I noticed it, that familiar grey monochrome. Deku wasn't there, not quite. He was frozen as if the world was amber and he a mosquito with Dino DNA. Only this time in black and white and a dozen million shades of grey. That one, those ones. So it's you, huh? After all these years of nothing and now you appear. Almost made me think I had depression, you bastard. I snicked. Oh, you do have depression, and not courtesy of MOI tilde, by the way. Other me said. Though that's not why I'm here. And why are you here, then? I asked. Well, you see, I was looking for Sergeant Pumpernickel here. He said, lifting up an eldritch abomination from the fifth dimension as if it were a cute little kitty. Do you really plan on destroying the world for a joke, bud? I asked, unimpressed. Ah, fine, all right, Captain Killjoy. Let me get to the point. Don't. He replied, nonplussed. Don't what? I asked, feigning ignorance. You know what? He said, look, I know what you're planning, and trust me, it won't work. The chains will only bind you stronger, tighter, more painfully. I know because I tried it, same as you. It's never so easy. If it were so easy to get out of rob contracts, you think I would have had to shunt mine off to you? I won't know until I try. I protested. You won't know until you suffer is what? He cried. Do you know why I've stuck around the past 14 years? In this pathetic little world of bullshit powers. Because of you. I feel like shit for having to shove my obligations off to you. And I know you don't hate me for it, but I do. And listen, I won't blame you for it, if you continue on this cycle. Hell, the rest of us have. But please, consider this, you have a chance at what none of us had, if only out of the fact that our great power stops us from loving that which is not us. But you are different. You have a family, a loving wife, good friends, even if that's just a temporal illusion in a fourth-dimensional phase bubble, but that's not the point. The point is, don't abandon them, this one chance of yours. After all, isn't love worth something, Haru? He exclaimed, emotionally, putting up a great performance. I clapped sarcastically at his act. Very moving. Much inspired. I mocked. Well, a man can try, can't he? Other me said, defeatedly. You just want me to take the L and die on this off-kilter pile of dung in your place, don't you? I asked. No. I mean yes, but that's not what I meant. He said. What you meant was that I should fuck like a bunny and create more pawns to further distance the contract from you so that even if I die, my progeny will inherit it, without the benefits, and hopefully, die a brutal enough death that maybe the contract will by some twist of fate void itself. Yes. I interjected. Not in so many words, but that's about right. He said. Then that's that, isn't it? I already have a son on the way, so you should feel secure in your dealings. Why appear now, of all times? I asked. If you're gonna be so cross about it, then I'll leave. But remember, he said, shoving his hand up one of Sergeant Pumpernickel's many fanged orifices, twisting it about his hand. I with always the few, in my own twisted way. I sighed, fresh out of fucks to give. I don't think I need to tell you this, but please refrain from using eldritch abominations as sock puppets. It can't possibly be healthy. Oh, don't worry about it. This little baby can't even scratch my skin, he said, scratching it on the head like a dog. As I looked at the shoggoth in his hand, the world returned to color again, and time began to flow again. Well then, Toodles Tilda, he said, blinking out of existence as color returned to the world, all out of sight from me. Fuck. Fucker Batmaned me again, I shouted, as I turned around to see a confused Deku looking at me like a madman. That's it, guys. Hope you like the video. Like, share and subscribe the channel if you like it. And tell me in the comment section down below if you have any recommendation.